Governor Greg Abbott, thank you so much and welcome back to Eye on Politics.
Yeah, great to be back, thanks.
So why should Texans re-elect you for another 4 years in what would be a record fourth term?
There's no state in America that's doing better than Texas is right now. I've been the governor presiding over the best economy in the United States for the past decade. We rank number one in the most new jobs, number one in opportunity, number one in growth. And so economically, Texas is positioned very well. But also when you look at what we are seeking to achieve, this past session, we put Texas on a pathway to being ranked number one in education, in addition to all the number one rankings we have economically. We're also keenly focus on making sure we keep our state safe. Look at the contrast between the Biden years and what we have right now on the border, for example. But know this, Jack, and that is because of what I did as governor to make sure we had a secure border. We were able to reduce illegal immigration into the state of Texas by 85%. And fentanyl deaths have declined over the past year by 40%. All of this is because of strategies I helped put into place. We need leadership like that that gets results for the people of the state of Texas. Today, I'm outlining ways in which we can ensure that we're going to cut property taxes by about 2/3 when I get past this next session, the plan that I announced today.
I wanted to ask you about your property tax reform. This is your signature bill. This is your signature policy for re-election. And so one of the ideas you have to allow voters to eliminate school property taxes on their homesteads. And I'm wondering, you would have to do that through a constitutional amendment. And first of all, are you going to get 100 votes in the House that you need to pass it? And as far as the scenario, how are you going to fund schools?
Right. So with regard to getting the votes needed, it will require a constitutional amendment, which requires 2/3 of both the House and Senate. A lot of people think, well, gosh, it's going to be easy, and it should be easy. I know this is one of those 90-10 issues where 90% of the people want the way that I cut property taxes to pass. That said, we still need to get Democrats and even some Republicans to go along with this. The way we are able to pay for it is through the budget surplus that we run year after year after year. Our annual surplus exceeds the amount that it would cost for the state to fully fund education if we implement the cuts that I'm proposing.
So over how long of a period though? Because I've talked to experts about this even years ago when this really first came up, and they said doing it responsibly, it's going to take 2 decades to do it. Are you saying that's not true?
Well, so probably the formula that you talk to them about is if you eliminated the school district property tax for all property tax payers, not just homesteads. And there's a huge math difference between the two. If it just includes the homesteads, and if you look at the last 4 years, we've had far more budget surplus than is needed to make sure we make our schools fully funded. The reason why I use only the last 4 years is because the 2 years before that had the 2 years after COVID where the states got so much money that the budgets were outsized. I'm using post-COVID money time periods when our budget was plentiful. And when you look at our growth trajectory, we're going to have plenty of income to make sure we're going to be able to pay for these property tax cuts.
Without raising any other taxes?
Without raising a single penny of new taxes.
Sales tax and other fees, et cetera?
Every tax that currently exists, and let me say it this way, no tax that currently exists would need to be increased in order to pay for this.
Now, another one of your proposals is to cap the appraisals. So people's businesses and homes, I guess, would be appraised once every 5 years. And then the appraisal would be capped from 10 now to 3%. And I've talked to other people about this, some of them conservatives, and they bring up California Proposition 13, and they say it didn't work so well out in California. So how will you prevent that from happening, the real estate market being distorted, people incentivized to stay in their homes, and then there's fewer homes on the market, and that raises prices?
Sure. California is a false narrative. The 3% per year appraisal increase limitation, Florida has that. And the Florida real estate market is thriving like the Texas real estate market is thriving. And so it can be done. It's just a matter of willpower to get it done. You know, I'm tired of the naysayers saying, oh, we can't do it for this reason or that reason. It's time for all the naysayers to pay attention to the 90% of Texans who want this done. It's time that we start listening to and be responsive to the homeowners in this state, that we do the thing that needs to be done to actually cut their property taxes.
Have you gotten pushback from Republicans? Because you said that at the, when you started.
Some ask questions, how are we going to pay for it? And the more I explain it, and the more they realize that what I'm saying is substantiated, the more they're going to come along the side. But it's a process, and we're going to make sure we get it done. I'm going to be on the campaign trail, making sure we elect Republicans who are going to support actually delivering real property tax cuts, lasting property tax cuts for our fellow Texans.
You've condemned CARE, Muslim Brotherhood, Sharia law, the Abbott community, the Meadow, and I'm wondering, what do you say to everyday Texans who may be of the Muslim faith, and how do you distinguish that between going after those other organizations?
The distinguishing factor is those who embrace terrorism and those who are against terrorism. Easiest example is what just happened last week here in the Dallas area. Last week, there was somebody who had sponsored and provided material support to terrorism, who was in the United States illegally from Jordan, ordered deported. And who came to his aid and support? CARE came to the aid and support of someone who's being deported because they gave material support for terrorism. They should stop supporting terrorists if they don't want to be categorized as a terrorist sponsor.
Casino gambling. This issue has come up, it's going to keep coming up, and I'm wondering, where are you about the idea of changing the Texas Constitution to allow it through a limited number of resorts?
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm simply not there yet.
Why not?
Because we've seen increasingly problems that go along with gaming, whether it be addiction, whether it be things that are happening in sporting events and athletes who are on the take. And so there have been more red flags raised that cause us to have to pause, step back, take a look at this, and make sure that we wouldn't do anything that would be harmful either to the people of the state of Texas, the culture that we have in the state, or to sporting events that we have in the state.
Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said yesterday that one of his top priorities in 2027 for the legislative session is something similar to the Trump accounts, giving newborn Texans $1,000 in state money. Do you support that idea?
Well, I haven't seen it. I can tell you this, and that is, as I mentioned to this crowd here earlier, I have one priority, and that's to cut property taxes. Anything that would interfere with that would be something I'm against. If it doesn't interfere with that, I'll take a look at it.
So you're non-committal at this point?
Yeah, God, I don't know anything about it.
So let me ask you about affordability. We see this across the country as an issue. People are saying my insurance costs are too high, college costs, health care costs. Do you have any solutions for that?
Sure, for all those. For one, let's talk about insurance. And listen, whether it be homeowners insurance, auto insurance, professional insurance, all different kinds. There's different answers for each of those. On professional and auto insurance and things like that, there's lawsuit reform that's needed in the state of Texas. With regard to home insurance, there are reforms that have been implemented in other states that Texas needs to take a look at. With regard to health care, several different things. For one, over the past two sessions, we provided billions more for women's health care, for senior health care, for mental health care. So we're keeping up with the funding in that to make it more affordable. And then when you implement things like artificial intelligence and accessing doctors through AI and through distance, it's going to lower the cost and increase the accessibility for healthcare across the entire state.
So, Governor, here we are days before the filing deadline, and we are still waiting for the U.S. Supreme Court to maybe give a more definitive answer on the administrative stay imposed by Justice Alito. What's your thought about this?
So the Supreme Court annually goes through all these redistricting lawsuits, and they understand what's going on in states very well. One thing the Supreme Court has issued an opinion on is to make clear that courts should not interrupt the election process. Because the election process is so far down the pathway, as we're speaking right now, it's just a few days before the filing deadline.
Right.
That is a signal that the Supreme Court likely realizes it's too late for them to issue a decision that would interrupt the 2025 maps that were passed this summer. So I would say nothing in life is certain, but it weighs with a higher probability that the 2025 maps that were passed this summer will be the maps that will be used for congressional districts this election cycle.
Governor Greg Abbott, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.